Prescribe?
to
Yeah,
that
like
belief.
meaning, do you follow that belief? Do you adapt or adopt that belief?
Yeah, I think if we are exposed to too much heat, we might we might get chronic disease and heat shock, because the heat wave is very harmful for our health and body.
Sorry, I'm making some notes.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't the get okay, so you corrected your grammar to be correct, right? Because you said to focus on your grammar today. That's what I was doing quick. I was pulling up some alternate lessons. But get chronic disease seems unusual because like heat doesn't really lead to chronic disease. Heat just means like you basically would just say you get sick.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Do you know what I mean? Chronic disease is like if you get Alzheimer's. I'm not sure heat has anything to do. Chronic disease is usually genetic.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
You might get sickness,
You
and
might get sick. It's just get sick.
okay, you might get sick.
Yeah. If you want to use something, I mean, we usually say get sick, but if you're looking for something that sounds less, I don't know, like mundane, you could say if you fall, we can fall ill,
You could fall
is our
ill.
expression. And usually we say heat stroke. It's heat stroke, not heat shock. I want to say I was trying to think if there is such a thing as heat shock. Have
Yeah.
you heard heat shock?
Yeah, heat stroke. Yeah, I heard
Heat
about that.
stroke. Okay. And you don't need to say the heat, it's not a heat wave. The heat wave is just like a phenomenon where basically the heat is moving across a certain like geographic determinations of land. It's just like the moving of the heat. Like it's just the heat, not the heat wave.
Hmm.
Anyway, seeing you in the morning, it's good because it's like I have to wake up my mind to keep up with you though. All right. So
My
you wanted to,
grammatical
yeah,
range,
go ahead.
my my grammatical range is I find it hard to balance between using a variety of structures and accuracy, because like I would try to incorporate more advanced structures, especially if I make hypothetical scenarios. However, I find myself like making mistakes.
hmm
So
I'm
like
just listening.
I
Oh,
should
sorry.
identify. I need someone to identify these common patterns
Patterns.
patterns with grammar.
Um, well, hypothetical scenarios are just with the would could. That's just about consistency. So, you said I have some stuff up for grammar. I was trying to think about something we could use to induce variety. But, from the a lot of people have one impression and I'll have another. It doesn't mean I'm right. I'm just going to give you my opinion. Okay? Um, yours one consistency. Yeah, you lack some consistency, but that is just something that you yourself have to train into. Um, there are all levels of lacking of consistency for native and non-native speakers. Two, a lot of your mistakes aren't grammatical though. They're vocabulary, you know, like where use the wrong term or chose the wrong phrasal verb or used the wrong particle with something. So that's not necessarily grammatical.
Hmm.
Your verb conjugation is generally spot on, but I'm paying attention, so I'll point out every time I hear it.
Hmm.
But just because you make like one little mistake, again, that's more to do with consistency. Like going over grammar with you is kind of pointless because you're going to get every exercise correctly, probably. But I pulled up, like for instance, like this one does a bit of a review on which forms would be best. So if you want, we can do that and we can see if you make any mistakes on which form to choose, and then I can review that.
Hmm.
And then this one I pulled because, like I said, I didn't have a lot of time to plan once I got your message, but I definitely tried to make sure I had something. This is using, it's kind of like conditionals, like when you're using things like provided that, supposing, things like that. So we can look
Hmm.
at high level conditionals. Does that seem okay?
Can I
Or do
just
you what?
Can I try
Sorry.
to, can you ask me like a past tense question, and then
Absolutely.
I'll try to use like a variety of past structures. Like,
Okay, so
I
do you want
think
me to ask something that you would generally get on the IELTS? Do you want? Okay, well, we're talking about the wheat, so or heat. Tell me about a time you endured a weather event.
mm-hmm,
Okay, what happened, how you felt, how you adapted or
mm-hmm.
survived it. Okay, go ahead.
Last week was the climax of hot weather in Hanoi. Uh, I got heat stroke when the temperature reached about 40 degrees Celsius. I immediately fell ill and needed to stay at home all day. If I had been more careful, I would not go out in the scorching sun. I would just chill in my bedroom. And honestly, I think this had this event has dramatically like increased the number of people who are admitted to the hospital, um, including my neighbor who was at first bedridden, but then he got um, extremely ill. As a result, he was hospitalized and needed to, have some IV drip.
Are you just making all this up?
Yeah, I know. I don't make.
Yeah, when you make things up, sometimes you go off the deep end.
Yeah, that's
So you
it.
haven't ever had a major weather event that you can think of?
I
Because it
just
didn't
try.
have to be heat. I just said weather event.
I just try to apply some words we just used for a better retention.
Fair point. Okay. Um, why isn't it? There we go. There we go. Okay, well, let's look at some of your grammar. I did what you asked. I tried to just, I hope that was okay. If I was just typing everything you said in very bad typing, of course, because you know me and my typing, but that's okay. We can remedy that by looking at it. Um, yeah, but I kept up well because you spoke really nice and slow. Thank you. Um, okay, so you tried to do more or less like a third conditional, okay? And you're missing the result clause accuracy. Okay, so like you need to use the past perfect, which you did, right? In the conditional.
Mm-hmm.
But then you need to have would have plus particle, but you were just using would. So you were doing like a third and second mix, but it wasn't
Okay. Yeah,
correctly
that's
used.
why
So we can do, I'll ask you another question and you can focus on that, but let me just point them out, so you can see.
I would not have gone out.
Exactly.
Okay.
Um, there's no such thing as it corrected it, but you said heat stroked. Heat stroke is a noun. It's not or a verb, so you don't change it. I got heat stroke. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
I got a heat stroke.
no, no, there's no such thing as heat stroked. It's a noun. It's
Uh,
just heat stroke. You can't alter nouns
So
unless you
I
add
would say
s.
the
I
heat.
got heat stroke. It's just I got heat stroke.
Okay.
That it?
So
That's a vocabulary thing. Yeah, sir.
so it's a noun. So yeah, it's uncountable. So no before that.
No, it's not uncountable, but I don't think you got multiple heat strokes in one weekend. You'd probably be dead, but it's countable.
So
Oh, you wouldn't say, oh, I see, because you want to say a heat stroke. No, it's just I got heat stroke.
okay.
Right. Um, yeah, you're right. I guess it can be used in this case as uncountable. You're right. It can be countable or uncountable because you can say a heat stroke, but in this case, because of the got, it's just I got heat stroke. When the temperature now, this one it was a pronunciation thing. I think you meant to say reached, but there it was clearly it sounded like reach because I immediately caught it, so it had to have sounded that way, whether or
Reached,
not you said
reached.
reached. Yeah,
Yeah.
I immediately felt ill and needed to stay home all day. If I had been more careful, I would, as you said, not have gone out in the scorching sun. Generally, when we use movement like go, it's into because to is your preposition of movement. In is just location. Okay. Um, I have there's a question here because I couldn't understand the word and you may not remember it, but the pronunciation
Oh,
I couldn't catch
chill,
it.
chill,
Oh,
chill.
oh, so you would have said I would have just chilled in this case.
Yeah, chilled in my bedroom. Yeah.
Chilled in my bedroom. Okay, that makes sense. I
Chilled.
think maybe I missed it as well because it wasn't what I was expecting because it was grammatically incorrect. And that happens where you can't catch something. And I also think this event has dramatically increased the number of people who are admitted to the hospital community who was at first bedridden, but then he got extremely ill. So need to have you abandon those forms, which is fine. There's nothing wrong. So this is okay. It's just I don't know, it's the wording. Again, but we're not focused on vocabulary right now, but like needed to have some IG drip. We wouldn't really say that. You would just say needed to have an IV put in or needed to have an IV.
Needed to have an
Yeah.
IV.
Yeah. But again, it's not grammatically wrong. It's just not how I would say it. But everything else grammatical is fine. Yeah.
Okay. We
So should
can
I
do,
ask you another?
yeah, we
Sorry.
can do, we can practice solely on the past tense because it's very common and it's very confusing.
Okay.
Similar questions like this.
So do you want me to, okay. So we need to ask something though that you can really explain, but you need time to think about as well.
This is
Because if I
extremely
ask,
helpful.
yeah,
This
but
is,
if I ask what you did on your weekend, it would be boring. So I'm trying to think. Okay. So just focus on like telling a past tense story, not like comparing past to the future, right? Let's see. I was looking at the top. Tell me about, okay. Tell me about a time where you felt threatened on the internet or that you felt someone had crossed like that may not someone, it could be something had crossed some boundary. Does that make sense? Because
yeah.
that was a topic for today. For instance, like a privacy boundary or gathering information and sending an ad. Do you know what I mean? Take your time if you want to think about that one because I know I'm trying to get things that kind of unusual and that makes you have to think, you know?
Yeah, it is. This is a great question, and
Yay.
something I've never encountered before, so it's good.
Yay. Do you want me to write it out? Sorry, while you're thinking.
Yeah. Okay. Um.
You just think I'm just gonna write.
Okay. Mhm.
Yeah, I'm listening.
Mm. Is this pace that I'm talking okay in an IELTS test?
It's gorgeous. Oh, yes, absolutely. It's not too fast, it's not too slow. It's perfect.
Yeah, I'm just afraid that I might sound slow and they may deduct my fluency score.
Well, keep that pace again and then I'll analyze it. Do you want me to time you?
Oh, sure.
Just to see how long you were talking and so then you can kind of get an idea about, okay, well, you know, that I felt slower than it was or it was as slow as I felt it was. Okay?
Mm.
So when you start talking, I'm gonna put the timer and I'm not gonna just stop it until you stop because it's not. Go ahead.
Mm. There have been multiple occasions when I when my privacy was really like affected. One time I was just minding my own business when I received a strange phone call from an unknown number. I immediately hung up because the other side was silent something in the back of my mind told me that this was not a good sign. And I immediately found out that my bank account had been, my bank security had been compromised. Uh, I realized that I was not using a VPN tool to keep my accounts safe and secure. Honestly, if I had been wiser, I would have bought a VPN. I would have subscribed to a VPN service to safeguard my privacy and protect my identity on the internet. In another case, I was doxxed online when I got into an argument with the fanatical online user. I was uh, criticizing his his favorite celebrity, and the next thing I knew, my of the image of my city, the city that I was in, was revealed on his feed. And he tagged me and said, "This is the consequence. This is the consequence if you, you know, if you insult my idol." I had been so terrified and immediately blocked him. Thankfully, after that event, I no longer um, encountered him. If I had been more careful with my words, I would not stir up drama online. I would not have stirred up drama online. Yeah, that's it.
Sorry, I'm just getting the last part. Okay. So that was 2 minutes and 45 seconds.
Okay.
And you basically gave enough answers for two, in my opinion, two IELTS questions. So there are times where you speed up, you know,
Yeah.
and it doesn't sound unnatural because that's how we talk. I think that your slow pacing has more to do with the fact that you're just constructing this story in the moment. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, so it doesn't sound unnatural. Would it affect your fluency score? I mean, that's so subjective. Some people could say, "Oh, I love this pacing. This is perfect for me." And other people could say, she sounds uncertain. Do you know what I mean? So I would say if you want to play around with pacing, and then I'll tell you my feedback. So if you want to take more time to think of your answer beforehand on the next question and then try a quicker pace, I say go for it. Don't worry about me keeping up. More like I'll just try to pay more attention to the mistakes, not getting every word, and then I'll give your feedback on if I think the pacing was fine and if I understood you. Does that seem okay?
So, you mean that I should take more time to brainstorm?
Take more time to brainstorm because then your pacing will be faster, is what I'm saying. If you want to try a faster pace just to see if it sounds better. Because I have to hear you at a faster pace. So as I said, it's subjective. So for me, your pacing is perfect. But you're right. Another reviewer might say she's, as I said, she seems uncertain. I can tell that you're making up the story as we go because I know you. It's hard not to be subjective because I know you and I know how your voice will change when something is made up in the moment and when it's actually you. So I'm compromised, but I'll try to take that away from my head. But
Mhm.
as you see this, you said all this in 2 minutes and 45 seconds. So you take that as you want.
So
Um,
yeah, cool. So
so
any
yeah,
issue?
yeah. So it's a
Yeah.
few, but not, again, some of it is just pronunciation. Like here, I think I didn't know what you said, but then later you said insult. So I'm guessing that you had said I was insulting his favorite celebrity.
I criticize.
Oh, you know, you did, yeah, for that, you didn't get all your syllables because I almost wrote criticizing, but then there wasn't enough syllables for it to be written. So I just put the dot, dot, dot because I didn't want to fill in. I wanted you to know that there wasn't enough syllables for me to make out the word. I had to
So
assume.
I had to enunciate
The criticizing. Yeah,
to enunciate
criticizing.
more. I
Yeah, well, it happens to everyone. When you see it's in the middle of your speaking and there's a lot of soft and hard sounds in one word. So it's a natural thing to do, but yes, you didn't enunciate it. So can you say it again? I was criticizing.
yeah, I was criticizing him.
Yeah. Okay.
Criticizing him. Yeah.
Criticizing. One time I was just minding my own business when I received. There's some things like, for instance, I wouldn't say one time and then I was just minding because one time is supposed to be linked with something that had happened that's finished. It was one time, right? But
Mhm.
instead you went ahead and you set up the story as your setting. So it doesn't work to say one time I was just minding. If you said one time I received a strange phone call, then that would work. So I would say there was a time when, like that is what I would have used. There was a time when. Um, and then I immediately hung up because the other side was silent. I don't really understand the silent phone call and your bank account. Like the story sounded very fake just because there was no, like honestly, if I were doing an IELTS content review, I would say there's no connection between the silent phone call and the bank thing. And I was like, I think maybe you should change your story halfway. I would be unsure. Was this real?
Yeah, this is real.
Okay. So how did the silent phone call have anything to do with your bank account
The
getting
second
hacked?
story was made up, but this for the first one was real. Yeah.
Can I ask then? Because I don't get it. How are the two related? I couldn't make the connection.
I think it's because they found out my bank account through my phone number. You know,
How would they?
because
Okay.
the banks would sell the information of users to them.
So, but basically they called you just for fun. They didn't have to call you to get your bank account, right?
Yeah, but it's it's hard to explain, but I think it was they're connected to each other.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, but they didn't have to call you to hack your bank,
Hmm.
right? So they just called you as like frosting on top of the cake kind of deal. Like they just wanted to further harass you.
I think, yeah.
Creepy. I mean, it's totally creepy. Yeah, there's just, I don't understand. Like, there's no connection. But, yeah, I mean, the connection for you was that it triggered your awareness. My bank account had been compromised. It's interesting. It's a vocabulary thing. It's fine, but yeah, we don't really say it that way. I would just say I immediately found out that there was a breach in my bank security or an issue or in my bank security. I was not using a VPN tool to keep my account safe and secure. Honestly, if I had been wise, I would have bought That's Good or subscribed to a VPN service to safeguard my personal identity later. That's great. I love this part. I was like, nice. You seem very confident in this sentence. It's like you found your stride. This is where you sped up. You should go if you want to go back and listen. And it
Mm.
was like very fluent. In another case, it sounded like you said I was stalks. I wrote that specifically because that's what I heard. I was
But
stalks.
yeah, I said docs. Docs, DOXXED.
I know, but I'm like, doxed is like when somebody does something to your name, right? Like they erase you
No, they
to publicly identify. Okay. I've never, yeah, it's a slang statement. So yeah, I always thought it was erase you. Okay, so they publish your private information. Well, they didn't publicly oh yeah, they did publicly identify you because you said that they had put it on their social media, right? Okay, doxed. Be aware that the other people might have the same, but it's still, so it had to be doxed. So it's still the ED sound. It's the same thing you had with the other one, the reached. You don't get the t sound. I
Mhm.
still might have misheard that, but it still would have been better because it would have still been accurate and correct rather than sounding just like docs.
Yeah.
Make sense? doxed online when I got into an argument with a fanatical online user. I was, and the next thing I knew, the image of my city, the city I was in, was reviewed on his feed, and he tagged me and said, "I don't get this reviewed on his feed. That's not
Revealed.
really a thing." Oh, revealed. Yeah, I heard reviewed. Revealed on his feed. Okay, and he tagged me and said, "This is the consequence if you insult my idol." But the thing is, he didn't just tag. He didn't actually say what he was going to do. So what consequence? The consequence is just that that's the consequence. It's just revealing your location. That was it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I think my eight, because I'm like, okay, I would have just been like, okay, it's my city. I've been so terrified. So yeah, this is a made up story because I was going to ask more details. I'm like, well, it's just made up. It doesn't matter. Because I was like, well, what about this? And what about that? I've been so terrified and immediately blocked him. Um, I don't think this is before. Do you understand? Like this I had been so terrified, okay, would have had to come because the terrified would have to come before this. Do you know what I mean? I
Mhm.
wouldn't have said I had been so terrified. I would have just said I became because that was a result. Do you understand?
Mhm.
Like I get that you're looking at it as it happened before the blocked, but this is more connected to the previous thing, right? And it's kind of a same time frame, not before. So
Mhm.
I became so terrified and immediately blocked him because this is a progression. Thankfully, after that event, I no longer encountered him. Um, I no longer encountered him is the thing. I would say thankfully after that event, I never encountered him again. Do you know what I mean? Not no longer encountered him because that's about frequency. There's no reason to use frequency in the past tense story like that. If I had been, did I miss a word? Probably.
If
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah,
had
yeah. I did. I realized I was just writing this down to see if you did it right. Yeah.
yeah.
Ignore that. That was me. Okay. Do you want to, so another story?
Yeah.
Okay.
This time I will try to enunciate better.
Yeah. We'll focus on that. But also, like I said, go ahead, think about it more and try to speed up your I'll time you again just to see how much you can say in the time, but something I want something again that's challenging and unusual. Let's see. What were the other topics I had for today that should inspire me? Um, hmm. Tell me about a time where you, oh, this is kind of a weird one. This might be too complex. Tell me if I should change it. This can't. Tell me about a time where you had a disproportionate, and I say you, or it could be you or anyone, because maybe it was someone you observed. Tell me about a time where you or someone had a disproportionate reaction to a situation. Does that make sense? Meaning like, for instance, like my friend once saw the satellite link, do you know the Elon Musk satellite link? And had immediately thought that aliens were invading because it was at night and she didn't know what a satellite link was and started like having like panic. Yeah. And it was just like, whoa, whoa, calm down there, girl. You
Mhm.
know?
Yeah.
But also like for instance, like when you're having a bad day, and you just throw a tantrum and you get really, really angry about something, like for instance, someone. steps in front of you. So you see this happen every day in the street.
Mhm. So it's sort of like a mix, a different level of reaction.
It's like the reaction is way, yeah, it's either way under what it should be or way over. It's either too weak or too strong. For
Okay.
example, some people have weird reactions to like tragedy, you know,
Mhm.
like, oh no, I lost a finger. I've seen weird stuff.
Okay. All right. I would
Think about it a bit. I'm going to write it down so that you can still remember it. When you're ready, just tell me you're ready and then I'm ready
mm,
too.
Okay.
Sorry, I can hear people talking. Where are you?
I'm in a coffee shop.
Ah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, I'm ready. Let me turn this
Okay.
up so I can make sure to
All
focus.
right. So I'm ready. Yeah. Uh, my older sister and I used to believe in Santa Claus when we were children. However, an incident happened, then our belief in Santa Claus just shattered. It was 10 years ago when my parents decided to surprise us. They told us that Santa Claus would visit us because we had been very well mannered. Mm, Needless to say, we were over the moon because we always looked forward to having Santa Claus coming over. Uh, that night, my sister and I stayed up late. Uh, we saw a silhouette coming into the front gate, and we just cheered each other up like, yes, he's coming, he's coming. We need to hide and surprise him. So we hid under the blanket. Santa Claus came to our bedroom and gave us this giant box of present. We immediately jumped out and surprised him. But to our dismay, he turned out to be very different from what we had expected. We thought he would be a jolly white man with beard, with like a very fluffy beard. However, he his true identity was a lanky and malnourished college student who had been hired by my parents. Therefore, we were so disappointed. However, there was a disproportionate level of reaction between me and my sister. My sister, even though she cried a little bit after that, she acted like nothing happened and moved on quickly. I, on the other hand, busted into tears, and I felt like a part of my childhood was gone. But this taught me a lesson that uh, our parents really cared about us, and we shouldn't just believe in like fantasies and pseudoscience anymore. Yeah, that's it. That's the end.
What is this crazy story?
I just made that up.
I know this is weird. It's totally weird, man. I mean, it wasn't like a disproportionate reaction. Go simpler. I don't know, this whole Santa in childhood like complex. It sounded like like you're seeing movies where there's like the person like standing on the stage smoking the cigarette, being like, yeah, yeah. That's how you sounded. Like you sounded like, yeah, my childhood was ruined by Santa Claus, and I'm like, oh my God, girl, what are you doing?
Yeah,
I was more
it is kind of overblown, but yeah, I was trying to use a variety of structures. I don't really care about you know,
okay,
the degree
okay.
of
Let's
authenticity.
focus on that then. I won't.
Yeah.
It's just funny. Um, okay. Uh, so when you first started, you did this thing, you should go back and listen, where you were over enunciating everything. Like you were trying to get every sound correct. And then you dropped that, which got better. And then I could like hone in on where you actually have the issues. Okay.
Hmm.
Um, like for instance, this I wrote hide big, because I knew that you said hide, but it didn't, the D wasn't very strong, so it could have literally sounded like we need to hide, right?
To hide. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was where you lacked the enunciation. And I'm not sure how to fix it, to be honest. But okay, my listener, first, like this, it should be used to, but you were like used, and that's not the same. Used and used are not the same. So this is where you over enunciated from the beginning because you should have went with the I used to. Okay.
Hmm.
However, an incident happened, then our belief, and yeah, sometimes there were, yeah, times where I wasn't sure exactly what words you were trying to use to move it along. Like, I don't know, this is what I thought I heard, but I'm not sure if I did because it is awkward, this sentence, but again, I might have misheard you.
So how should I
And
say?
it happened and our belief, not then. Yeah. It was 10 years ago when, oh, that was just, yeah, my parents decided to surprise us. They told us, that's just me, that Santa Claus would visit us because we had been, yeah, we had been very well mannered. It sounds like, again, it was more like, back in the day, like on Downton Abbey. We don't, because we wouldn't say that. We just say because we had been good girls, you know.
Okay.
Needless to say, we were over the moon because we always looked forward to. I like this. Okay, this one was just weird. Like, to say we always forward to having someone come over indicates that they come over repeatedly. It's a normal thing, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, first off, if you believe in Santa Claus, it's once a year. Two, you were just girls. So how long could you have been looking forward to Santa coming once a year? Like, not enough to be like, yeah, we've always, it's like, hey, Santa's coming again. Oh, good. I love when Santa comes over. Nobody, you know. So the form is fine, but the for the story, it was very strange to say that. Do you understand?
Hmm.
And then my sister and I stayed up late. We saw a silhouette coming into the front gate, and we just, yeah, you said we cheered each other up. It wouldn't have been cheered each other up. It would be cheered each other on. This is what I mean by it's not most of the time it's a
Like a verb.
vocabulary thing.
Yeah.
It's just it was the wrong phrasal verb. It wasn't cheer up, it was cheer on. Cheer up is when you're feeling sad, but there was no indication that we were feeling sad and you're trying to cheer each other up. You understand? You're cheering each other on, like you're like, hey, hey, get excited, get excited. Oh my God, he's here. Yeah, he's here. That's just cheering each other on. You're kind of feeding each other into more and more
Yeah.
a higher reaction. He's coming, it's coming. We need to hide and surprise him. So we hid under the blanket. That's fine. Santa Claus came to our bedroom and gave us this giant box of, you definitely didn't say presents. You said giant box of present. It's presents,
Okay.
right? Um, so this is what I mean by when you got more natural, and they're honestly, you don't make that many mistakes. It might feel that way to you because I point them out, but it's just a few times. When he jumped out, he turned out to be very different. We thought he would be a jolly white man with a very fluffy beard. This is just me, just yeah, because I was at that point, I think I was laughing.
Yeah.
I was like, I couldn't keep up. Judy was a lanky. This one, I wrote down exactly what I thought I
No,
heard.
I said malnourished, like he was malnourished, he was not having
Oh,
enough.
malnourished. This is a pronunciation word. Malnourished.
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 Yeah. Malnourished.
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 Yeah. I of course I trying to get you to do the t. You wouldn't say it that thing, but you would say he was lanky and malnourished.
Okay.
So these are words that you want to practice. It's that EDT sound that's been consistent for you. And yeah, it's like, okay, now you have to think about which verb to use that will make you practice the sound. But the grammar is good, therefore we said good. Me and my sister, good, even though she cried a little, she had to, yeah. I, on the other hand, busted into tears and felt like part of my childhood was gone. Yeah. Um, this taught me a lesson my parents took care of it. Yeah. And but the grammar's fine. So your grammar's good.
Okay.
Do you want to change things up or do you want to do another one?
Just do another one.
Okay. Let's see. If you have one that you want to do, tell me too, because I'm like scraping the barrel here. Because I'm trying to think of something that's unusual.
Mm,
Let's see. I want like something that will make you do a step-by-step process of what happened rather than a reaction, because that'll give you more opportunities. Let me think. Um, okay. I mean, honestly, there's the obvious one that we've gone over. Just about like tell me about a problem you encountered and how you solved it. We can be more specific, but the point is that, and you can change this to something else. I want to get where you can tell me a step-by-step process so that we're less on feelings because that
when
takes you into another tense. Yeah.
but and when my computer broke down or something.
Yeah, something like that. I know it's a bit boring, but I just need something that where you can tell me
Okay,
this and then this and then this and then
I,
this,
I will
rather than I felt. Mhm.
I will tell you about the time my computer malfunction.
By the way, the timing on that last one was almost the same. I forgot to tell you that. You did say a little bit more for the same time, but the timing is pretty consistent. Okay.
Yeah.
Take your time if you want to think. If you start talking, I'm just going to hit the timer.
Okay. For this part, can you just stop me at the 2 minute mark?
Sure. Okay.
I don't want to talk for too long because
Okay, I will.
yeah. Okay. Mm,
I'll raise my hand like this when you get to 1.5 minutes to give you an indicator in case
okay.
you want to try to wrap it up.
1 minute and a half, right? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I'll raise my hand. That way you know you have 30 seconds.
Um, mm, yeah, this is hard. Okay. Mm, one time I was using my computer to complete an assignment when there was a glitch on the screen. It said there was a hardware error in the system. Frustrated, I tried to restart the computer a few times to no avail. Um, the computer started to heat up. It was very hot to the touch, and I freaked out because I had never experienced such a big crisis before with my computer. Before this incident, the worst, the worst time that the computer had acted up was when it was lagging a little bit because it tried to download this large file. That time, however, was different. Uh, I knowing that the computer malfunctioned, mm, brought it to the repair shop and had a mechanic inspected it. I thankfully it the he resolved the issue in the end, and my computer was back to normal. However, it cost me an arm and a leg to fix this device, and I
10
thought,
seconds.
yeah, I thought that I should have bought another model because this one was not operating that well.
Good, time's up. Okay. Um, I think we need to do more of these because yeah, this is good. There was like when you started getting into the process, I started getting a bit confusing about your reasoning with your verbs, like choice. Of course, my typing. One time I was using my computer to complete an assignment. That was fine. When there was a glitch on the screen, it said there was a hardware error in the system. Frustrated. You do this a lot, which is fine, but then there was a time where it was like you did it in the middle of a sentence or it sounded that way, and I was like, wait, what? I tried to restart the computer a few times to no avail. That's good. Um, you when you put these expressions on the end, I realized that you said this clearly, but I wanted to think it was something else because of your tone. Like you were like, I wanted like you should go back and listen because I don't know if I can imitate it perfectly, but you were like, I tried to restart the computer a few times to no avail. And it was like, no, that's not how we would say it. It would be like, I tried to restart the computer a few times to no avail. You have to drop your voice. All
Okay.
right.
So the intonation was kind of off.
Yeah. And so I wanted to think of it as something else. Like my mind just didn't want to wrap around, but the pronunciation was fine. I realized the
This
computer
one
started
was
to
like
heat.
a confirmed statement, right? It's not a
Yeah.
question,
It's not a question. Exactly.
so I
Yeah.
shouldn't have
The
raised my
computer.
voice.
Yeah. It was very hot to touch, and I freaked out because I had never experienced such a big crisis before with my computer. That's fine. Before this incident, the worst time that the computer acted up was when it was lagging a bit because this was it tried to download. Well, how a computer doesn't try to do anything, it takes commands. It's you that tried to download a large file. Do you
Mm,
understand? Or you could have said it had been downloading. So you had to manipulate the grammar to fit the subject. If it was going to be it was more like it was happening, like it was doing it was carrying out your command. Does
mhm.
that make sense? But it wasn't trying. Yeah. Yeah. Um, it's you that was making the effort. That time, however, is different. Knowing this one was it. Knowing that the computer, see, there was like something that was missing. I wrote it how I heard it, and I was really confused. No, because you started knowing that the computer malfunction brought it to the repair shop, and I was like, what?
Knowing that the computer malfunctioned, I brought it to,
Well, first off, it would be had malfunctioned, right? It'd be had malfunctioned. Okay, so yeah, it was just like there was something missing. So I wrote it how I heard it, right? So I don't know what happened there. I brought it to the repair shop and had a technician. It's not a mechanic, it's a technician. A
okay.
mechanic generally we reserve for like cars, even though mechanics technically work on all machines, so it makes sense. We don't call them mechanics. Well, maybe in some country they do. We call them computer technicians where I'm from. And had a mechanic, and it sounded like he said inspected, right? And it should be you had him expect it because it's a causative. You see?
Mhm.
So that was another thing too, like where it was confused. So I had a technician inspect it. You see, you understand how the causative works, right? I think
Mhm.
you just missed that. Thankfully, resolved the issue in the end, and my computer is back to normal. Yeah, however, it cost me an arm and a leg to fix this device. I wouldn't say this. I would just say the device because you're not holding it. This makes it seem like it's here and present, like you're showing me. If it was in front of us, yeah. I thought I should have bought another model. It was kind of an afterthought because you were trying to finish, and I didn't think it fit. Like, I think you meant I think you meant I should have just bought a different or a new computer, right? Not another model. Because when I first heard this, what I thought was, oh, she means she wished she had bought another model in the past, like to avoid this whole issue. But then I was like, no, I think she's saying that instead of fixing it, you should have just bought a new one, right?
No,
But
I
how you
thought
presented
I
it,
want to say
sorry.
I want to instead of this, for example, instead of the MacBook, I should have bought like a Lex like an Asus or something.
So you're talking about before any of this ever happened.
Yeah.
Okay. So you needed to add more. It costs this is a different thought. So you would have wanted to say, you know, if I, you could say, I wish, I would say in retrospect, because it's weird. It's just weird how it's placed there. So it's a retrospective thought. In retrospect, I wish I had bought a different model to avoid this whole ordeal. Like you have to really explain how that thought's coming to you, you know, or you can make it into a third conditional. If I I don't know. But that's all right. If I could have, I would use yeah. If I could have done this all over again, I would have just bought another model, but no, because that's still a reaction to it. Yeah. So it's a retrospective. Do you understand? So you have to say in retrospect because it was retrospective. And so you have to kind of indicate that because it could have been interpreted in too many ways. And so then my interpretation changes the grammatical requirements, which would then count against your fluency. Make sense?
Hmm. So it's a
Yeah.
nice linking word to prepare reader, to prepare listener.
In retrospect?
Yeah, it's like a
Yeah, I
linking.
love that word. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a linking, it's a transition. I'll send that one to you because you can go back and look at that in retrospect.
yeah.
Okay, you've got like a few minutes. Do you want to just tell me another story or?
We can do a part three. Like you can ask me a free speaking session now, and then you can kind of correct me
Okay,
on
part
this
three
part.
is pretty much similar. Okay, so I guess part three is like a reflection on society. Okay, so yeah, tell me, I'm sorry, my mind goes to complex questions. So hopefully that's what you like about me. Because I was thinking, you were talking about computers and Mac, and I was like, I was going to ask, do you think that there exists an oligarchy of IT companies, or do you think that there is still room for new startups to compete with established companies like Apple and Google and Microsoft?
Mm, I think it is very hard into to break into tech as a new startup because so many enterprises have existed uh, with a similar missions
So many enterprises exist already, right?
exists with similar missions and business models. That's why it's hard to stand out from the crowd and scale up as a tech company, as a tech venture.
Okay, but I'm thinking more, okay, so let me just shorten the question. Do you think that the major tech companies, though, like the ones at the very top, have created an oligarchy? Because there's lots of levels and layers of IT, for example. But at this point, there are like, for instance, operating systems. There are like very few. There's open source operating systems like Linux, right? But otherwise, you've got Google Chrome, Microsoft, of course, Windows, and Mac OS.
Mhm.
Like, so do you think that there just exists an oligarchy? And do you think it's natural, like it should exist? Or do you think it's an issue?
Mm, I think monopoly it's always very harmful to innovation. Yeah, so if there is a group of tech companies that have control over everything, it would stifle innovation and it would,
But it
yeah.
would, but it's not hypothetical. It's not a hypothetical question because it says, so do you think it does? What do you think there is an issue? It is stifling, or do you think that there's no issue?
I think it would be stifling for
It
innovation.
is stifling. It's not a hypothetical question. It's not hypothetical.
Okay.
Do you
Uh,
understand?
okay. I think it is stifling to society and to innovation in general because I always believe in competition. Um, I always think that the more the merrier, and it's good for the customers and it's good for the companies. So yeah,
One, in normal conversation, I would say this as well. But if you were looking at this from a technical perspective, belief is belief. There's not always belief, right? It's just I believe in competition. You don't need to use a frequency of a belief because it's just a state. Yeah. There's no frequency of it. So I believe in competition. You could
okay.
say I have always believed. Maybe if you want to reference that it's been an ongoing thing, but to say I always believe is a bit odd, you know?
Mhm.
But otherwise your phrasing is great. And that's good because it's interesting you went right into the hypothetical. So I'm going to ask something else about something that's happening now, that's an actual issue, and try to get you to avoid the hypothetical. So 3 minutes. So I have to think fast. Um, okay. Do you think we're talking about the heat? So okay. Do you think in present day, okay, do you think city governments and national governments are doing enough to plan for excessive heat? Because this is actually happening now. Do you know what I mean? Like every summer has been record breaking. So do you think at this moment that cities are doing enough to plan for mitigate the excessive heat, not solve it because you can't stop it?
Mm-hmm. Mm, I believe there is insufficient measures. There is an
There are insufficient measures.
there are insufficient measures to tackle the increasing like amount of heat stroke. Um, cities are don't have enough. Most cities don't have enough parks and shades because these areas are shadowed by these areas are dominated by buildings, commercial buildings that also reflect the sun, like the heat from the ground. So I feel like we should build more parks and green spaces to cool down the temperature. Um, Another thing is something that Korea has done quite well is installing umbrellas during in the like in the pavement, like in the areas where people wait for to cross the road
Ah, at crosswalks,
at crosswalks to
and
prevent people from heat waves, uh,
not prevent them from heat waves, to protect them from the heat.
to protect them from the heat.
Yeah. Got to get off this heat wave thing you're on. You're on the heat wave. There's a song. Okay. So your grammar is still pretty much fine. It's here it was mostly when we get to these, we should explore that later. When we get to these, you know, I gotta go, but social issues, it's when your vocabulary starts to denigrate. Like you just keep pulling on what you know rather than thinking about the proper word for what you're saying. Um, so you should have said there are insufficient measures taken, or in this case, I think being taken. You're missing the end to that. To tackle the increasing amount of heat stroke. That's fine. You wouldn't say to cool down the temperature, you would say to bring down the temperature, is what it is. The crosswalks and on sidewalks were the words you were looking for. And then you already know protect them from the heat.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll send you all this. Excellent work, though. And yeah, please keep telling me exactly what you need. I'm so grateful for it because that means I can do better for you.
Okay.
Have a lovely day and week.
Thank
Bye,
you.
Mai.
Bye.